Time now for the Press Review, and Diptyque Lauren joins me in the studio for a look through what's making headlines across the world. Hello, Diptyque.
Hi, Annette.
Here in France, it's all about one woman, and as the host of the 51%, I'm very happy to be talking about this. This is Elisabeth Borne, who's Emmanuel Macron's new Prime Minister and the second woman to be appointed to the post.
That's right. There should have been many more women in the 30 years since the last female Prime Minister in France, who was Edith Cresson, but anyway, it will take the steps that we get, right? There's a lot of enthusiasm and excitement around Elisabeth Borne's nomination. There's also a lot of skepticism. She, of course, takes over from Jean Castex, who was the former Prime Minister, hence this very inspired headline from the French Huffington Post today, Born after JC, not Jesus Christ, but Jean Castex, so a little play on words there. Now, she was former minister, now she's Madame Prime Minister. That's what Le Parisien aujourd'hui en France says on its front page. It's her, they exclaim on that front page. You know, Elisabeth Borne is described as being brilliant. She attended a prestigious engineering school in France. She's worked for French rail companies. She's worked in several cabinets of socialist ministers. Her nomination is, quote, a choice of security, but it's also the correction of an anomaly, the editors say. After all, from Indira Gandhi to Golda Meir, to Angela Merkel, to the leaders of Sweden and Finland, women have been governing in total indifference for a very long time.
There's also very much this idea that her appointment is seen as a rather sensible choice, a rational pick by Emmanuel Macron.
That's right. In fact, you sort of get the idea that that's not a good thing, looking at this front page from Libération, the left-leaning paper, which says her nomination is kind of like the first place. The paper says in nominating her, Emmanuel Macron is really opting for continuity. La Croix calls her the efficient choice. After all, Macron needs someone to pilot his strategy on combating climate change. Elisabeth Borne has good knowledge in this domain, but her nomination is also proof, La Croix says, that Emmanuel Macron does not want to change his style of governance, that it's all sort of trickled down from him. I quote, one technocrat succeeds another, like Castex before her. Elisabeth Borne does not have political weight, and therefore she will not overshadow Emmanuel Macron.
Now, the right-wing media in France are also suggesting that her nomination is a way of Emmanuel Macron reaching out to the left.
Ahead of those parliamentary elections in particular, Annette, L'Opinion, the right-wing paper, calls her a woman for the troubled times in French politics, saying that Emmanuel Macron has chosen, quote, Elisabeth Borne, the most determined of his ministers, to spearhead promised reforms, but also send a signal to the left ahead of those parliamentary elections in June. Of course, far-left leader Jean-Luc Mélenchon is hoping to make his mark in those parliamentary elections. It's why he's the focus of this cartoon from L'Opinion's cartoonist CAC today, who imagines that Jean-Luc Mélenchon is telling Elisabeth Borne that it's nice of her to fill in the position in the interim, the idea being that she's warming the seat for him in some way. Another right-wing daily, Le Figaro, marvels at how Scandinavian France feels with its female prime minister. But she does have her work cut out for her, and part of that work will be sort of trying to contain the anger of both the far left and far right.
Now, in the meantime, a young man is dominating the British media. He's Jake Daniels, an up-and-coming footballer who came out publicly.
That's right. Exactly. He's just come out. He's sort of said he's gay, and he's been his announcement has been very much welcomed in the British papers. He's been lauded for this very brave move in what is often the very hetero world of football. 17-year-old Jake Daniels, a footballer for the British club Blackpool, announced he's gay in comments that he made. He's the first footballer to come out as gay in 30 years. And as you see on the front page of The Eye there, he said he just didn't want to lie anymore to himself. He's ready to be himself, to be free. And he also said that he hopes to inspire change in the culture of football. Indeed, his comments come at a very particular time in football. Homosexuality, for instance, is illegal in Qatar, and that's where the Football World Cup will be held at the end of the year. Nonetheless, the Times of London really rejoicing in his courage. What a happy moment, they say. The paper concedes that in the 21st century, this should not be breaking news, but in the world of football, which can often be, quote, too testosterone-y, too laddish, it can be sort of very intimidating for those who fit in.
Okay, now let's go back to some gender equality news. Now, after mansplaining and manspreading, there's a new term that we need to be familiar with, Diptyque.
That's right, and that word is hepeated. I'll explain in a second. Basically, this term was tweeted out by a U.S. physics professor in 2017. It's the act of a man repeating what a woman says and getting credit for it. And then it's come into the news because the British Office for Qualifications and Exam Regulations, so the exam board, included the word in an internal handbook for its staff on, sort of how to better navigate the politics of the workplace. And indeed, it is a minefield out there for men. You've got mansplaining, you mentioned it, where men condescendingly explain things to women that women already know. There's manterrupting, there's bro-procreating, where a man deliberately steals a woman's thunder. There are monologues as well, where men just sort of talk and don't allow women to say anything. So, and now we've got hepeating. So men really need to be aware of how they might accidentally or not talk down to women.
Now, let me think. Have I ever experienced hepeating?
I'm sure you haven't. And I'm sure we all have, haven't we?
Thanks for that, Dipti Laura.